Time for the market report. Row crops still falling.
Indeed, and we'll get into the reasons, along with cattle prices are rising. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then, what's moving the row crop markets? An expert weighs in. And finally, MSU livestock economist Dr. Josh Maples talks about cattle and how things are looking up. So, markets closed once again, trending down. Row crops hit the most. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, live cattle, up over 2.25 cents, more than a 1% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, lumber, down 43 bucks. That's more than a 6% decrease from the previous week. So row crop prices falling. We've been talking about it for the past several weeks and potential reasons. How much longer will it last, and will there be a turnaround? Well, market analyst Don Roose says it looks like international competition is one of the reasons.
Well, you know, it's just competition. I think we got to be the cheapest wheat in the world, cheapest corn, and the cheapest soybeans. But then when you rally just a little bit, we become uncompetitive. It's that tight of a market. So I would say it's, and that's what you mean when you're trying to forge a bottom. You know, it's one that takes time to build a base. Yeah, I think when you look at the corn, it's last year we bottomed at 360.5 on September corn. So we're well over that right now. So far this year we went to like 370, just over 375. So the timing, last year we bottomed August 24th. So you're in that window that you could, but I think it's one of these markets we're trying to see where end user demand really picks up. We're trying to see, you know, when these spreads start to narrow in a little bit. When old crop supplies get cleared. So I think it's just one of those that takes time. It's the wrong time of year to be overly positive on the grain market going into harvest. We've got pressure from the south. The Delta's starting to harvest corn. They probably harvested so far 70 million bushels. Put it in perspective, Louisiana's about 25–30% harvested. So we're getting pressure from that. But at the same time on new crop, you know, you're seeing very limited selling here. For a lot of people, you're down at below break even, so it's kind of a caution on making new sales. What we've seen is our new crop export sales have been very good on corn so far, but that's mainly because people pre-buying because of the tariffs coming on place. But, you know, exports could be well overstated in corn and on soybeans. A lot of it's going to be dependent on what happens with trade and these tariffs going forward. It's very much an unknown so far.
This past year, cattle prices have been slowly going up by nearly 16.5% since January 1st. Looks like the cattle rebuild's still happening along with other factors. I spoke with Dr. Josh Maples about it, and he says it's a good time to be a cattle farmer.
So really positive on the cattle side right now. We've got prices that we've never seen before. Producers who are selling calves right now are making more revenue on those calves than they've ever made before. And we're just, quite frankly, we've seen highest cattle prices across pretty much all types of cattle. So all the way from fed cattle that are getting turned into beef, feeder cattle going into feedlots, those calves that we just mentioned earlier, and then also cull cows and bulls. So right now the landscape is, it's a good time to be in the cattle business. You know, beef demand has been really strong, and that's a big piece of this is beef prices are high. Consumers are still paying them right now. We see really strong prices for beef and strong consumption of beef. Beef demand, whenever cattle supplies are tight, have kind of gotten us into this environment that we are seeing really, really strong prices for cattle. Cull cow markets are really interesting, and I think that's a key piece here about where we go from here. Because if you think about what's got to change for us to get more calves next year or the year after that, it's got to be we need more cows, right? And so cull cow markets have really shot up in terms of value. And so we've got a smaller cow herd, so there's fewer cull cows out there. And our cull cows typically go into ground beef type products. And so whenever we've got a smaller cow herd, that's more demand for those cows to be ground beef. But those cows are also in demand to be productive for next year. And so to me, that's a really interesting piece here at this point in the cycle is, you know, as producers are making those culling decisions, they can get more for that cow than they've ever gotten before as a cull, but they also need that cow in order to produce a calf next year. Those type of decisions are really going to drive what we see in terms of expansion. Happening right now, most of our calves in Mississippi are born in the springtime, so we're at the point where you're weaning those calves, and This is a key point in which producers are making the decision of what do I do with my heifers? Do I send them off to feedlots, or do I sell them to be stocker cattle and ultimately feedlot cattle? Or do I hold back some of those heifers to try to develop them so they'll be producing calves on my operation in the future? That's one piece. The other piece is the cull cow piece. And so as I'm making a decision, hey, this cow, weaned this calf, do I want to keep her around for another year? Both of those decisions made, every individual producer is going to make it for their operation, but how producers make that on a state level, national level is really going to drive what we're talking about in terms of expansion. Right now, we don't see clear signs of expansion yet, but I think this fall is going to go a long way in telling us about what we're looking at the next few years.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets.